Hey everybody, welcome into Warp Factor 10, our show about all things Star Trek here on the Arena Productions. I'm your host Expat, along with my co-host Burley, who's on the bridge with me again. Burley, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you doing, Expat?
I'm doing awesome, man. So it's time to talk about Strange New Worlds, season 2, episode 4, Among the Lotus Eaters. Now, of course, this episode we go back to Rigel 7, which of course has a lot of history behind it. Of course, the cage and all from the very first pilot episode of Star Trek. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff here. So we're going to be talking about Among the Lotus Eaters. But before we get into it, obviously this is going to be a spoiler-filled episode here, where Burley and I we're going to be breaking down, recapping the episode, and discussing it. So there's going to be a lot of spoilers. So if you have not watched the episode yet, please go to Paramount Plus and watch it, and then come back and enjoy this episode as we discuss things that happened in the episode. So with that said, that's your spoiler warning. So let's go ahead and start getting into it, Burley, here. So we get Captain Patel, of course, from the Cayuga. You know, she comes on board, and of course he's cooking again, you know, Pike the chef, and he's cooking her dinner, you know. And everything seems to be hunky-dory and all, you know, at the beginning. You know, but they're always getting interrupted by communiques. And then, of course, Captain Patel gives Pike this gift. It's an Opelian, like seafarer's kind of like a pendant. And yeah, I mean, it's basically for people that they have to find their way home. And so this is a very ancient piece here. And, you know, Pike really likes this and all. And everything seems to be going great, you know. They're all smiling and, you know, about to eat dinner. And then, of course, Captain Patel, she gets, of course, a communique from the Admiral. And basically, she's being told that, you know, the guy that she was working with in the last episode, the judge advocate, I think his name was Batak. I think his name was the Vulcan. Basically, he's pissed off that they lost the case, and so basically she was set aside for another person to be promoted to Commodore. So yeah, and of course Pike is, you know, sad for her, and it, you know, is telling her that she deserves that promotion, and that, you know, I think I'm standing in the way of your career, unfortunately. And it's like, we don't get much time to spend with each other anyway. And so maybe we should take a break from each other. And so she's like, oh, this is great, you know, perfect timing. And then she doesn't even eat dinner. She just gets up and goes back to the Cayuga. So anyway, what did you think of this opening sequence here, Burley?
I like this opening sequence, and funny enough, the place I was raised and lived in for most of my life is actually called Cayuga.
Oh, really? Cool.
Same spelling. So it was a little, when I was watching this, I got a little chuckle out of that. And I was like, oh, nice. Yeah, but I really do like this this opening. You've got them just trying to, you know, they're going back to basically the one episode, the introduction episode with Ahura from season 1, where they're just he's cooking, and, you know, Pike is just relaxed cooking.
Right.
You know, and it sucks that she lost out on her promotion chance because of the whole trial.
Yeah, yeah. And then we get the, of course, the meeting talking about Rigel 7. Obviously, they had gone there 5 years before, but they could not scan the planet due to the atmospheric disturbances and all. And so they had to go down there. And this was like 5 years ago. And it was like a 4-hour mission, because they ran into the primitive species there. It was like a Bronze Age society, and these 3 you know, other crew members were killed, and Spock almost died as well, but they were able to save him. And so you see, this is you know, the discussion they're having on Rigel 7, and obviously they show an image here, which is coming up. This is, of course, Ortegas. She's looking at the screen, but yeah, they're basically using the Starfleet Delta, and so they must have. And here's the image of it here, and so they must have left some stuff behind, unfortunately, and now they have to go back and basically clean up their mess. So, what did you think of this briefing here?
The briefing was your standard Star Trek briefing, and you know what? I do like that they're just like acknowledging, the first time we went here, we went not dressed in proper clothing of the planet.
So right, they were in Starfleet uniforms, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, so yeah, we screwed up there. This time we're gonna go in proper uniform, go in proper planet, disguise ourselves within the planet.
Right. So yeah, wearing the natives' garb, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. And so here's Ortega. She's all raring to go and all, she's all like, oh, I'm the great pilot, and I'm gonna go down there with them, and I'm gonna show myself off. And then Spock shows her and Pike, the problem with the planetary system, and of course the asteroid belt there and all. And it's interfering, so Ortegas has to stay behind because she's the helmsman of the ship. She pilots the ship, so she has to make sure, because they have to make like adjustments every 20 minutes, and so basically Pike is going to fly the shuttle down there, and of course Pike is an expert shuttle pilot himself, but here Ortegas, she's pissed off at Spock, because basically now it ruined her chance to show off a little bit more. What'd you think?
Yeah, I like that. She's all raring to go, and Spock's like, whoa, hold on. And at the time, she is really mad about this. But you got to see it from Spock's perspective. He is making a right call here. As much as it'd be good and she wants to explore, where is she most needed? On the ship.
Right. That's right. So anyway, we go on here, and so we see the atmosphere here. We see Rigel 7 as they're flying the shuttle down into the atmosphere. And then, of course, Pike is, with La'an and Mbenga, Mbenga here. And he's basically on this mission, we cannot take any, technical equipment that we normally use, and La'an is like with the scope here, she's like, are you serious? It's like, yeah. So they just have basic translators and all, so that's all that they basically have here. So but here we start to get the interesting part of the episode where La'an starts to hear the ringing, getting the tinnitus in her ears, and of course the headaches and all, and then the memory loss. So basically, what's really going on in this episode is that this atmosphere, there was an asteroid that landed on Rigel 7 like hundreds of thousands of years ago, apparently. And the radiation from this asteroid is affecting the inhabitants, where they lose their memories, basically. So it's like a memory wipe. So, and what's interesting about this, among the Lotus Eaters, this episode, basically in the Homer's Odyssey, of course, the time of Homer, Odysseus went to an island, and he ran into inhabitants that were basically just addicted to eating lotus, and they just basically lost it, and they didn't have any capacity to want to really do anything. So I mean, that's interesting how Homer's Odyssey is kind of used as a preface for this episode, in a sense, because with Rigel 7, obviously with the radiation affecting the people's brains and their parietal lobe and all, it's just they lose all memory, and so La'an is feeling this now. So your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the Homer's Odyssey. I was just about to bring it up myself. Yeah, I like it. She's the first one to feel the effects of this planet. I really like that, and you can tell part of her wants to go back, but part of her knows we need to do the mission. She is committed to the mission. So she's like, no, I'm fine enough. Let's just keep going. And even Pike wants to turn back. You can kind of tell because he even just looks at the doctor and goes, should we just turn back?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't. And it's, nope, they keep going with the mission.
They keep going with the mission, and then they get to the palace there, and they find Zach, who was one of the 3 crew members that supposedly died on the last mission to Rigel 7. And now he's kind of like the de facto emperor there. I mean, he was a lowly yeoman that basically became the de facto emperor on Rigel 7 here. And so, yeah, he's like, I want to see you guys, he feels, he feels a little bit of hatred towards them because of the fact that he felt that they left him behind and all. And so he wants them to suffer, with all the memory wipe and everything. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting, so he's all left behind, but now he's like a de facto emperor.
Yeah, this was a little weird to me. Like, not that he became de facto emperor because he's given them some Starfleet tech and all that, but it's just like, you guys left me behind. You didn't fully check if I was KIA, so I'm going for revenge here. I was like,
and I don't think I have it in any of the images here, but like in the palace, if you look carefully, he's got a big print of Alexander the Great in the background.
Okay, I did not catch that.
Actually. Yeah, it was funny. It's like I saw that. It's like, yeah, that's Alexander the Great. Yeah, so one of the classic portraits. Yeah, from one of the battles that he was in. But so anyway, we get back to the Enterprise, and of course, Uhura, now she is being affected by this, and the Enterprise crew is also being affected. And you see here the neurological scan. So the brain scan synaptic. Yes. So degradation in frontal, parietal, and temporal lobes. So basically it's affecting the entire brain. What did you think of this?
Yeah, that was finally we get a little bit more of the explanation and being like, yeah, it's affecting every part of the brain pretty much, just showing that. And then you get the whole thing with the nurse and them all talking, like trying to figure some stuff out while they're on the ship because they're realizing a few of them have been affected by it now.
Yeah, a few of them, and then it became almost basically everybody. And then obviously Spock is giving like tablets, to everybody that has their own personal information on it. And, Nurse Chapel's basically like, that's just a Band-Aid. It's not a solution, So, it's not a cure. But so we get Pike and we get one of the locals, and obviously they go to the farming area, so to speak. And, Pike is like breaking rocks, and Mabanga is cutting wood and all. And so La'an gets into the fight with one of the guards, and she gets wounded, and she's pretty critically wounded here. And Mabanga's basically figuring out that he must be some kind of a healer or something, and so they gotta take her back to this guy's hut. And he shows them the totem and everything, and he doesn't want his memories back. So he's basically like, I'm just living for the day. I don't really care about wanting to know what my memories and my history and my past is. So what did you think of that character, Burley?
Yeah, that was interesting, and that I actually really liked, because it's like, okay, you've got a guy that knows his memories are gone.
Yeah.
He knows there potentially is a way to get him back. Doesn't care to. He just wants to live out the last few years of his life, and just make peace with it, and just die. It's like it's kind of interesting, because it's like, does he have any kind of inkling, or is he just afraid to learn his memory, get his memories back?
Yeah. Well, the thing that Pike is basically worried about now is La'an's about to die, and so he's got to get his memories back. And so basically the only way he's going to get his memories back is to go to the palace again, because obviously there's some type of like a crypt or something that supposedly, you can get your memories back. And also him and Mabanga have to go back to the palace. And so we see the palace in the foreground here. And so they basically make it up there, and Pike is still wearing, of course, the pendant there that was given to him by Patel. And here's Erica, of course. She freaks out, and she's completely lost it. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know who she is. And then she gets back to her quarters, and we hear the ship-wide computer. And it's very different from like the Next Generation with Majel Barrett, Majel Barrett's voice and all, the original Nurse Chapel, who's in all of the, I think it was Next Generation, of course, Deep Space Nine, and, the ship's computer, voice. So you hear this different ship's computer voice. And anyway, it's like, she's like, am I a pilot? Affirmative. It's like, I fly the ship. Affirmative. And so like she's basically getting directions to get back to her quarters and all, and then she finally figures out that she's a pilot. I am Erica Ortegas. I pilot the ship. I fly the ship. I am Erica Ortegas. So she's finally figuring out a little bit about herself, and so she's able to get back to the bridge, and she's able to maneuver through some of the asteroid field there. And then of course we get back, and Pike gets back to the palace. He fights his way back in. Mabanga is injured a little bit with his leg, but holds off the rest of the soldiers, and then Pike fights off Zach, and basically Zach is telling him that there is no like crypt. It's basically the palace, inside the palace kind of shields us from the radiation. So our memories stay intact inside the palace. So, yeah. What did you think of this part?
Yeah, it was a neat, because you were wondering, how is his memory still good? Because he's been in this, because he's been on this planet for years, for 5 years at least. You'd think he would have lost a lot of his memories. No, right. He had it. The explanation: the palace shields him from the radiation. Yeah. And so Pike gets his memories back and basically remembers that that's Zach, and he's telling him, "We're going to take you home, and what you've done here and all. That's that's for Starfleet to determine what to do with you and all." So yeah. So get that part here. Did you just drop something? My phone had slid off.
Okay. So anyway, Mabanga's able to heal on, and then the man here, he gets his memories back. He learns that he had a family and all, and he's happy that he was able to get his memories back now. So he thanks Pike and them, and of course Pike gets back to the Enterprise, and they decide to use a tractor beam and get the asteroid out of orbit. So because that is basically stopping them from the inhabitants of Rigel 7 from progressing. So it's not violating the Prime Directive, and of course Spock is like, that is sound. That is sound. So yeah. I like that part. And then of course at the end of the episode we get Uhura. She's back to normal. The rest of the ship is back to normal, and you see here in the image the tractor beam, of course with the shuttles, and then of course with the Enterprise getting the asteroid out of orbit, and then of course Pike and Patel basically making up. And he shows the pendant that of course the keystone, I should say, that Patel gave to him, finding his way back home, and then obviously them making up, and continuing their relationship. Yeah. So yeah. Your thoughts, Burley, on the end of the episode there and the episode overall. What are your thoughts?
I think the ending was good, and was a nice here we found a solution to fix this, and all that, and Pike making his way back. Overall, I think it was a really good episode. Some really good moments for a lot of the different characters, and different and how they came up with solutions to get past the problems that came out throughout the episode. Overall, I would say if you got to make me rate it out of 10, I'd give it a good 8.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably give it around a 8.5. I mean, it was a really good episode, obviously. Going back to Rigel 7, obviously. But just the fact that, making people think, do you really want your memories? I mean, the memories of your past, I mean, they might be joyful, or the memories of your past might be horrifying. However, I mean, those are memories, and it stops to make people think. Memories are things we should cherish, even though they might have been good or bad. And I really like that aspect of the episode. And but I have to say, boy, I mean, Christina Chong, man, I love her. I think she's a great actress, but I think it's time for her to take a little bit of a break. She's been in every single episode this season so far.
Yeah,
we have seen a lot of Christina Chong. I mean, I think the next episode obviously is going to be focusing more on Spock and Nurse Chapel. Of course, it's going to be called Charades. So so maybe she has this episode off. But I was gonna say, I mean, she's had a lot of screen time in season 2 so far. So I not that I don't like that. I mean, I think she's a great actress, but I think I'd like to see a little bit.
I understand where you're coming from.
I think I'd like to see a little bit more of the other characters and develop them a little bit more as season 2 progresses. And I think we will see that. So because next week is the halfway point of the season. So So anyway, all right. So that has been our, of course, recap and discussion of Star Trek Strange New World, Season 2, Episode 4, Among the Lotus Eaters. So I've been your host, Expat, along with my co-host, Burley. And if you like this episode, please be sure to hit that like and the subscribe and the notification bell for when we drop another episode of Warp Factor 10 here on the Arena Productions. And, of course, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What did you think of the episode? How would you rank this episode among the other episodes here in season 2? So let us know in the comments what you thought of it. We'd really love to hear from you. So thank you so much, and we hope to catch you next week for the next recap and discussion of season 2, episode 5. So anyway, take care, everyone, and live long and prosper. Peace out.